Hello. Tomorrow is our geometry quiz, and I just want to go over our two topics, which will be on midpoint formula and distance formula. So let's look at this first example. It's asking us to use the number line to calculate each item, and one of the items they gave us is to find the midpoint of FB. Okay, so since we have a number line right over here, the formula that we're going to use is this one. The first value plus the second value divided by 2, right? Now, usually with the midpoints, the first value doesn't have to always be alphabetical order. Notice how F doesn't come before B in the alphabet. It's usually the first letter that shows up. So F is the first letter, so that's going to be my first point. So F, that's a 7. And B looks like it's a -1. So I'm starting from 7 and I'm going to -1, right? And then from here, I just want to replace the values. So A is going to be 7, B is going to be -1 divided by 2. 7 plus -1 is going to be 6 divided by 2, which is 3. So this is saying that point 3 is in between point B and F, all right? So notice that with these midpoint values, they could be negative or positive. That's all right because midpoint is just asking for the coordinates, not the distance. Now let's look over here. Now they want us to calculate the midpoint of each segment with the given endpoints, and they gave us coordinate points like this. So automatically, when I see coordinate points with both x and y values, I know that I need to use this formula. X1 plus x2 divided by 2, y1 plus y2 divided by 2, right? And then you just want to replace everything over here. So just like before, the first letter is going to be my first set of coordinates, and the second letter is going to be my second set. And I just want to go ahead and replace these values. So x1 is going to be 4 plus x2, which is 8, divided by 2. Y1 is 2 plus -6 divided by 2. Notice how this formula is similar to that formula we used for our number line, but it's just being applied to the x and y values. Okay, so then we just want to solve from here. So 4 plus 8, that's 12 divided by 2. 2 plus -6, that's -4 divided by 2. So 12 divided by 2, that's just 6. And -4 divided by 2, that's -2. So again, you have that negative value, but again, these are just coordinates. They're not distance. So now let's look over here. The point M is the midpoint of AC. Find the coordinates of the missing endpoint when you are given the one endpoint and the coordinates of the midpoint. So that was a lot, but basically this is telling me that in a coordinate plane, I have a point A and a point C, and they connect to make a line segment. Now in between them, there's point M, which is the midpoint. That's the one that occurs in the middle. And they gave us the coordinates for the midpoint, which in this case is 4, 1, and for the one of the endpoints, which in this case is A, which is 5, -1. But I don't know the coordinates of C, so I have to go ahead and find those coordinates for C. So again, just like the previous example, since I have x and y coordinates, I want to use this formula. But I'm going to use it different. I'm going to use it differently because instead of giving me the two endpoints, they gave me the midpoint. So this is saying that whatever I plug in for x1, x2, y1, y2, this should equal a +4, and this should equal a +1. going by the midpoint that they gave us. So what's going to happen is I'm going to separate these two formulas. So I should, for my x values, I'm going to have 4, which is the x coordinate from the midpoint, is equal to x1, and this is y1, 5 plus x2. I don't know what that is, so I'll just leave that as x2 divided by 2. And then for my y coordinate, 1 is going to equal y1, which is -1, plus, I don't know what y2 is, so I'll just write y2 in the end, divided by 2. So these will be the two different formulas I'll be solving for this equation, for this problem. So I need to do the opposite or the inverse of dividing by 2, which is multiplying. That cancels out. I have 8 is equal to 5 plus x2. And then you want to subtract 5 on both sides. This one gives you 3 is equal to that x2 coordinate. All right? The same thing right over here. You want to multiply both sides by 2. This gives you 2. You have a -1 plus y2. Inverse of the -1 is adding. That cancels out. And I have 3 is equal to y2. So over here, your endpoint, C, should be 3, 3. Now, they're not necessarily going to be the same values like this over here, and they're not necessarily going to be positive values. But this is what we came up with for that final endpoint.